Welcome to the Mayor's Forum. My guest today is Chief Ray Davis, who heads up what I believe is one of the finest, if not the finest, department in the state of New Jersey. Good to have you here,
Thank
Chief.
you, Mayor. Glad to be here
Nice
again.
to be back and talk about a busy department. You got a busy department. Why don't you explain to our viewers today the primary goals that you've set for our department?
We have 5 primary goals, and it's one, to reduce crime and the fear of crime. Not only the statistical numbers of the crime incidents in Egg Harbor Township, but that sense of fear that residents may have within a sense in the community. So we like to, that's one of our goals. The second is to provide policing services in a fiscally responsible manner. Everybody talks taxes. It's a major concern, and I know that from the Township Committee, the Township Administrator, and I want the people of Egg Harbor Township to know that's a concern of the Police Department, it's an administration, and that we want to know whether or not we're using that valued tax dollar to the best that we can.
Is that part of your mission statement?
Our mission statement is, as members of the police department are committed to providing, I'll just reading it, the highest quality of policing services by empowering our members to accomplish organizational goals in a manner accepted and endorsed by the community we serve and protect. And that's in recognition of the fact that as times change, as technologies change, as the community's makeup changes, we as a police department have to be flexible and meet those needs of those communities or the sub-communities that we have in Egg Harbor Township.
And I know you want our men and women of the department to know that mission statement by heart.
Absolutely. Everyone carries a card that has our mission statement on it and the vision statement on the back of it. And they're asked upon request from me to produce that card while they're on duty. Most of them carry it. Some have unique, have made pictures of it on their phone. Yeah. So if they don't have the card, they still have it on their phone.
They can show
them. Yeah, and I do test them. At briefings, I'll ask them to produce it, and they'll pull it out. And they have it. They have it usually in a uniform pocket or something like, or in their identification. Then they carry it with them. And it's just a way to instill that commitment of our mission and our.
And that's what our public expect too. Now I interrupt you when you were going through your goals. Did you get them all?
Now, there's a couple more. We have 5 major goals that we do, and to build and maintain effective relationships with stakeholders. And that's important with the various community groups. And you see on our Facebook page that we're very active in our schools. We're very active with our community groups. We're very active with our officers that do a lot of the coaching for our various athletic organizations in town, and those civic groups that we also. So we try to get involved with those as much as possible, as much as time allows us to do.
That's good. Now, where can our viewing public find information on our department?
Well, we have a very successful Facebook page. We have over 11,000 followers that directly follow that, and we put a lot of the not only the press releases, but requests for information and public security information. If we for the weather-related things, because I also do the emergency management. I head up the emergency management for the town, and we'll put weather-related things on there for precautions, for flooding, for storms, preparation, things like that. That will go on our Facebook page directly, and from there it gets pushed out to our Twitter account automatically. So if you follow the Facebook or you follow the Twitter, and we suggest both, you're going to get that immediate notification because a great deal of people have smartphones right now. The other thing is the Facebook, the Twitter, and our traditional web page, www.ehtpd.com, and on there we have a multitude of information about how to contact us for different things, the services that we provide, and that can all be found on there. One of the things that we did at the request of Committeeman Fromer was to update the traffic things, because as we know, traffic has always been a major issue in Egg Harbor Township. And with the construction around, which has been, we get calls daily about the backups and things like that for around the new Walmart construction. What we did was we'll put on our Facebook page, on the main page, there is the most recent detours and preparations for people, and that also gets pushed out to Facebook and the Twitter, so it goes to those 3 sources automatically. So people can find that information about detours and other things, just go to one of those 3 places.
And we have detours in town, and the chief mentioned about, traffic is really a lot of time consuming that our police department, and in some cases even our fire department, deal with. But most of the roads that are affected are not Egg Harbor Township roads. They're county roads or they're state highways that we're responsible for.
Exactly. Black Horse Pike is a state road.
Right.
Fire Road's a county road. Mill Road, that's being paved partially, and it's still being worked on today.
Right. Zion Road,
yeah,
Ocean
Zion
Heights
Road.
Avenue, you name it. They are where we really, that's where the accidents take place. And when they're this time of year, during the winter, a lot of cases you won't see crews out there because you can't do asphalt when the temperature drops below 35 degrees. Chief, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about some more of the services that are provided by the Egg Harbor Township Police Department. So for community events, and then come back, stick with us. It's going to be a very interesting second half. Welcome back to the Mayor's Forum. My guest today is Chief Ray Davis, Chief of the Egg Harbor Township Police Department, one of the second largest in Atlantic County, only to Atlantic City. Chief, welcome back. I know one of your goals is CALEA. Can you explain to our residents what they've heard CALEA, but I'm sure most of them have no clue what they are.
CALEA is an acronym for the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies, and CALEA itself is the gold standard for accreditation for police. It's nationally recognized, it's internationally recognized. Back in 2003 and starting in 2004, CALEA formed a partnership with the New Jersey State Chiefs Association, and they formed an accreditation for New Jersey, and that's right now I think it's 105 standards. CALEA itself has about 480 standards. Many of them are similar, but they're expanded upon. So when that program started in New Jersey, we were the first agency in New Jersey to get that accreditation through the state association in partnership with CALEA. And that was designed basically to have as a stepping stone to the full CALEA accreditation process. That partnership has since split, even though we've maintained, and we're the only, we are always the first to be reaccredited. So we're one of the only agencies in the state to be accredited 3 times already. But we're pursuing the national accreditation. We're going from not only the state at 105, but we're looking to adhere to the 480 standards of the full CALEA and be one of the 7 departments in the state of New Jersey that have received that accreditation. And then we'll be at the top of the top there. We'll be in the top 1% in the country that are going to have this seal of approval and endorsement.
And I'll tell you, folks, it's a good thing for our police department. It's good for our public and the people we serve, because it really, what CALEA does and what the Chiefs Association does, and whatever organization they're involved with, they come in and they look at every standard that this police department, whether it be the jail or how we assign tickets, and one of the really good things for the taxpayer is a lot of times people want to sue the police department, and when you have this certification that we have, it says to all the lawyers, all the judges, that this is the top police department in the state of New Jersey, and that's something that I'm very proud of, and you know how I feel about our PD.
I have a couple of the expert reviews for some of the suits that have happened in the past, and they base their reviews on those CALEA standards. They look at those standards and they compare our policy, practice, and procedures to those standards, and whether or not we are meeting national standards.
Which we are.
And it's always been very positive,
Right.
those expert reviews.
It's a real plus, and it's a tremendous effort and time and manpower to accomplish it. I mean, you really got to work hard at it. And then, folks, what they have is then there's a public hearing for the public to come out and say either positive things about our police department, or if they have some negative things they want to say about our police department. The public actually participates in CALEA as the program comes to an end. There's another program we have, which I don't understand at all, is that DTACS.
DDAX is another acronym for Data-Driven Approaches to Crime and Traffic Safety. And the theory behind that is we're going to take the hard data that you actually have in a police department, analyze that data to find out where the crime and where the traffic accidents are occurring, not only where, but when and what times. Boil that down to dates, times. So you can take your the limited resource that you have of manpower and equipment and put it, and best have that served by going to those areas. A lot of times, you know, the street officers, hey, we know where the crime's happening and this is happening. But when you look at the raw data, you can really, do you really know that, hey, we have a traffic problem in English Creek and the Black Horse Pike. Every Tuesday between 3 and 5, we seem to have more accidents there. We seem to have these problems. Well, I was just, that was just an example. Yeah. So we've identified 2 hotspot areas that we use for DDAX. And now the mission of DDAX is high visibility and public contacts. It's not driven by revenue and writing tickets. Quite frankly, most of the motor vehicle stops officers make on a daily basis, more than 50%, don't result in any motor vehicle summons. It's the same thing with motor vehicle accidents. So it's not a revenue generator, it's a safety concern. When you're driving in a particular area and you see 3, 4, 5 police cars in less than a half a mile, people are going to tend to buckle up, put the phone down, drive a little slower and a little safer. Yeah. And that's the design of it. And we've been very successful in the 2 zones. One is up by the English Creek and the Black Horse Pike. The second one is in the area of the Harbor Crossing and the Shore Mall. And it extends out, and I'm sure it's going to extend out to encompass, once we get more data and the store opens, into the Walmart area. It's just going to be a natural progression. So we'll continue to look at that. We've had a lot of success in those areas. We're dropping down accidents because what I emphasize to the guys is the effort that they're putting forth with those. Like, and I can say, like, we've had 100 less accidents because of the effort you took. Think of how many people. That's 100 other drivers and their passengers, and how many more less injuries there were. How much time that we didn't have to spend investigating it. The damage, the cost to the insurance companies, the cost of medical bills to those persons that are injured. So we're having that positive, tangible effect that we can actually take a look at and say, look what we did with these efforts. So it's been very successful. It was employed in late 2011, and we've had success with it continually.
Actually, explain to our viewers the number of personnel that are under your command, whether it be communication officers or regular police officers and our civilians.
We have 85 sworn law enforcement officers. We have 5 part-time Class 2 officers. Those Class 2 officers help with court security, which is a mandate from the state. That's a cheaper alternative for us than having a full-time officers in there. They also help out with firearms background checks, which we had just under 700 of those last year. That's grown exponentially in the last decade. And
700 people want to get guns.
That's a full-time process for a couple of people to be able to process those in a timely manner. Others are helping with property and evidence, with the destruction of stored evidence because of a backlog with that. So they help out where they can with it. And most of them have been part-time retired officers that have come back, so they're familiar with our policy, procedure, practices, and the people. So the training time is very minimal, if at all, and they fit right in for us and contribute.
So you've got 85 uniforms, and we used to be 101.
Yes, we were at 101 about a decade ago.
Yeah, about 101, and because of certain situation, we lost the
airport,
and a few other things. So we got 85. Now, how many civilians do you have in that?
We have about just under 30 civilians, and that includes the people in the IT department, but they service the entire town. Now, that includes the communications department. So we have 12 full-time communications officers and a cadre, I think 5 to 7. It fluctuates on part-time communications officers.
Now, you do the communications now for Longport, Linwood, Northfield, and us.
And Egg Harbor Township, 4 jurisdictions, yes.
Yeah, that's quite an operation.
Well, we just created a new position under their contract, the Communications Officer 2. So they're going to be they will be supervisors under the direction of the Director for Communications, Matt Cochran. Okay. So we have 2 officers doing that, Chris Ayer and Mark Smith. So we have a command structure there, an auditing structure to be able to start to implement a quality assurance program with the callers so they can monitor those calls better, make sure the information was accurate, make sure it's being documented on our CAD system or computerized aided dispatch system. So that information is proper, it's complete, it's full.
So we're going to take a break, and when we come right back, we're going to continue a conversation. We're going to talk about what I think is a heroin epidemic that exists in the United States, Atlantic County, and a lot of the municipalities that we serve. So we'll be right back with Chief Davis. Welcome back to the Mayor's Forum. Today, my guest is Chief Ray Davis, Chief of the Egg Harbor Township Police Department. So let's continue our conversation, Chief. Let's tell our viewers some of the other services that our police department provides.
All right, certainly, outside of the scope of the traditional 911 call for help police services, we provide fingerprinting for Egg Harbor Township residents. That's that information on specifics, that what you would need and when we can do that, and make an appointment, or on the webpage, again, www.ehtpd.com. We do the firearms applications that we mentioned and the permits to purchase. Temporary handicap placards can be issued through my office. We do crime surveys for residents if they want us to come take a look at their building. Child ID, which is a big one. You see that a lot on our Facebook. We do that during various public events for the community, and every time that we do that, we have a cadre of mothers that come out with their children. Mm-hmm. We do a lot of canine demos. We get a lot of requests for the dogs to come out and do that. The kids seem to really love that.
How many dogs do we have now?
We have 4 dogs. We have the Memorial Day Parade that's coming up. We're going to be part of that. We do the speed surveys. Frequently we get, hey, there's a lot of people racing down my street, and we have a certain system through the traffic department that we go through with that. We'll put out some silent counters that count the volume in traffic. We'll put out a speed trailer. Now, one point with the speed trailers, I just have to say this because we'll put a speed trailer out there, and then people will call up and say it's not working, it's not on. Well, we set the speed. So if you're doing within a reasonable amount of the speed limit, let's say it's 25 and you're doing 27, 28, it's not going to flash. And the reason being is we're saving the battery. Right. Because if it was to flash on every car going through, so if you see that in your neighbor and you see the cars going through it and they're not, the sign's not lighting up, then that car's most likely pretty close to the speed limit. And then we'll get that data and we'll be able to better put the officers out there when they're needed. Community crime mapping is one thing that's on our webpage. There's a link to that, and you can see where some of the crimes occur. Not everything, but there is a lot of stuff that's on there. With the police athletically, we have the association through the POW, and that keeps expanding. The Explorers, Officer Griffiths is our liaison with this Explorer program, does a lot with that. We reinstituted the college internships. We had 3 or 4 last year that were very successful. One I just saw, she came back yesterday. She's looking to help out again in the summer because she was interested. We have a couple more that are going to be starting in the summer, and they help us out with things like the paperwork and the detective bureau. They help with, we're looking at one for the IT department to assist them. So when we can fit them in, we like to do that and give back to the college kids that are coming back. The volunteers in policing, we have about 4 volunteers. These are retired individuals that want to give back to the community and assist with the police department. And we've had some for many years that come in and they do that fingerprinting for us instead of having a detective or somebody do that. And they help out with the firearms. Like I said, we have a lot of those. And they do some other clerical duties for us too. But our biggest one, and is the National Night Out, the first Tuesday of every August of every year. So this year it's August 1st. We moved last year, as you know, over to Veterans Park because we outgrew Canale. Right. When I became the commander of the Police and Community Services Bureau, I read somewhere in the newspaper about somebody having fireworks. So I got with Sergeant Suzarski at the time, Dina Dance at the time, and Mike Palmentieri. And I said, let's see if we can get fireworks. Let's keep it quiet. Let's see if we can make this happen. How much it's going to cost.
You got it
and once we know, it was very reasonable. We were shocked at it.
Right.
We were good to go, and we brought that in. And that first year brought in a lot more people, a lot more vendors. And it was a real fireworks show. It wasn't a couple of sparklers, boom, boom, here and there that you'd see. It was an actual, real fireworks show.
You don't charge the vendors, do you?
Nope.
Right.
No, the vendors don't get charged. A lot of vendors, no, I shouldn't say a lot. Some have called us up to want to participate and they want to sell their wares. We don't let them do that. We do let the athletic groups do that. Soccer has their stand. They'll sell stuff because it's a way for them to make fundraisers.
Sure.
And last year, between the weather and the new location, it was just fantastic. I mean,
yeah, what was the count?
Was fantastic.
I know it was enormous.
We estimate about 8,000
right.
total. I don't think that was at one time, but it did get full.
Oh, it did.
And then we did a live feed. I was the one who held up my phone, and we did a live feed on Facebook for the fireworks show at the end. And you could see how many people were viewing it, and they were commenting on it. And it's just, we were nationally recognized, and we keep growing up on that, going up on that list for the national recognition.
What's your before we get into some of these other issues? What's your thought on the cameras on the PD, and also drones?
Drones, there's legislation out there to expand the scope of drones by police departments. See, having the two hats I have as emergency management and chief of police, there's different things I could use it for. There is legislation in New Jersey to open that up and it really comes out of Bergen County because they want to use it along the Hudson River for search and rescue and things like that. Mm-hmm. But there's also privacy issues and Big Brother issues, kind of where the police department's going to have it and fly at it and to look at someone's second-story window and stuff, right. And that's just
But there's
it's not realistic, but
there is a future in drones.
There's a future in drones. It's expanding. It's a newer technology that's expanding, and as those get better, you'll see more and more of that being used.
How about the body cameras?
In a professional manner. Body cameras are a whole different deal. Most people think that with a body camera, it's so cheap that you can just why couldn't we do that? But it's not. It's not that. It's not the body camera itself, it's the technology to store those videos. Now, when we talked about having 85 officers plus another cadre of Class 2s, and if they're out there, that's a lot of video storage. Now we're talking about the retrieval.
Oprah.
Oprah requests for it, the retrieval of them, the editing of them if it needs to be. That becomes a full-time job, and you're going to need personnel to be able to do that.
Evidently, it's in the future.
It's expanding technology, and we'll see what's going to happen with it.
I see North Wildwood just activated it.
Did they?
Yeah.
Yeah. We have the MDVR cameras in the cars. Yep. If we do get complaints about officers, it's usually a demeanor complaint from a traffic stop. And most of our regular patrol vehicles have an MDVR in it, a mobile digital video recorder, and we can go back and we can look at that. Mm-hmm. You can listen to it, you can see it, and we can review that complaint there. I'm not inclined to go 2 body cameras for everyone because the legislation in New Jersey is still, we need protections for the public as far as Oprah requests. I don't want to see someone's next door neighbor, hey, the cops were at so-and-so's house, let's Oprah the video, and then they put it on YouTube to embarrass their neighbors, things like that. So,
let's talk about narcotics, heroin, and it's basically a tremendous amount of time we spend.
We're not immune to the opioid in the community. There's the fentanyl, the heroin, the OxyContin, the prescription medications that people are becoming addicted to. We're not immune to that. It's no worse here than it is in any place else, but that's a virus that's spread throughout the nation. For the nation. Yeah. And what we see is, it's not just the addict that's the problem with the addiction. It becomes the family becomes victims, the friends become victims, the coworkers, the businesses, because
society.
A lot of our petty thefts, whether it's vehicle burglaries and shopliftings, are people that are trying to feed that addiction. They're trying to get some money, get some merchandise, so they can get their next product in order to get the fix again. Now we see some dangers with the fentanyl is extremely dangerous. A little bit of it could overdose a person, and that's, that's where you're seeing a lot of the overdose deaths nationwide are coming out of something with fentanyl.
It affects the whole community.
It does, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what we do is, Narcan is carried by the full-time rescue squad. Prosecutor Tyner is inclined to have all officers carry Narcan. He's looking at funding mechanisms to have that, so the burden doesn't come onto the police departments or the individual municipalities. So I foresee that coming in the near future, that's going to probably happen. But we'll go, we'll tackle that when we can tackle it.
Now, this new bail bond act is really, everybody I talk to in law enforcement and administration are not happy with.
Now, I've been in law enforcement for 30 years and seen a lot of changes, but bail reform is one of the biggest changes that I've seen in my career. It has, as far as the processing of the prisoner itself, himself or herself, and dealing with that situation, it's gone much smoother than I anticipated it being. Yes, because there's a lot of technologies involved with the algorithms that you have to do when you fingerprint the person, and you have the charges and that decision-making model that comes with it, with the judges and the prosecutor's office. With so many working parts in there, I thought that we were going to have a lot more stumbles than we do. But you can see in the news daily that there's people outraged about how can this person be out again. Yep. The concern for the police department is that almost an immediate release of people, and we're gonna have to deal with that person the next day, and a lot of people do. So the crime instances and the victims are gonna rise, and that's a concern for us because we're on the front lines of that. And what are you doing, police? Why is this happening? Mm-hmm. That's part of it.
Now, you mentioned you've been in our service for 30 years.
That's right.
What have you seen? What would you describe the major changes you've seen in your career?
When I first started, we didn't have any computers in the police department. We had none. We still use it. I hear people call it punch a card, which means that they're going to make a case number. But the punch a card comes from, we used to have a little timestamp machine, and they would write the information on a card and then timestamp it. So that meant what the punch card is. But we didn't have any computers, no computer-aided dispatch, no nothing. Cell phones weren't. It was a big deal when we got a cell phone. It was about as big as this in a case that you could plug into the car, and the one officer had it, the sergeant for the time. I had a radio in my car, and you press the button, and there was like 4 buttons on it because we only have 4 channels, and that's what you had in the car. I mean, luckily, if you had a radar. Now, if you get in these cars, they're like space shuttles. You get in these cars, they got so many buttons, bells, whistles, e-ticket, and computer, and radars, and MDVRs. They're like command modules for a space shuttle. It's been a great transition to see it from 1987 till today, to see the technology.
I was elected in 1985, and I had multiple businesses in Atlantic County, and what I dealt with mostly was inventory. So I had a computer system in the late 70s, and when I was elected here, I couldn't believe that how much money the former committee had spent on having somebody come in and write programs for the computerized Egg Harbor Township, and they never worked. Because in my industry, the automotive industry, we have what we call turnkey. And I'm thinking there's thousands and thousands of municipalities throughout the world. There's no turnkey operation because we're all the same. We all do the same work. But you're right, the computers, cell phones. When you came on, probably the most modern thing we had was a fax machine.
Yeah.
And now it's not too modern. I
remember the first computers we got, they were just command line based little monitors with the green screen, no color, no nothing, that you could just type a report in like a little word processor thing. So you had that. We used to handwrite the reports in third person. I, the below undersigned officer, every time, instead of just writing I. You get the undersigned.
Well, that's changed.
Yes.
And the world, it's changing so fast. It's amazing.
Well, we have to keep up with the pace and the scope of technology. That's really what's driving the economy and the engine.
And when you have a test, you're testing these young men and women to make sure that they can cope with those.
Well, you know, and they grew up with it. They grew up in the computer age. They grew up with smartphones. They grew up, you know, we didn't.
Yeah, right. Now, let's get to something else. Many news agencies lately have sort of maybe put a negative spin on law enforcement. Have you had any personal experience with any of that?
Not in a negative thing. Personally, it's been a positive thing in Egg Harbor Township, and I think that's a credit to the relationship we have with with our residents, that we're out there in the community. We're part of the community. Many officers live in this community. They participate in outside activities of the police department and in the police department. Even today, and I had written down on my notes to talk about, I can't go into Wawa without somebody, you know, 3 out of 4 times now offering to buy me a cup of coffee, which those things didn't happen before. And even today on my way this morning coming in, sure enough, there was a lady there that wanted to buy me my cup of coffee, and I'm, no, I'm going to do it. You know, it's a lot. Those expressions. We had somebody just bring us a cake a couple of days ago.
I saw that.
And the different things that, so
You
we try to
didn't
put
share it
that
with
out
us
there.
either.
Huh? I didn't get any of it either, so I only saw the picture of it. I actually saw the cake. But I think we have a lot of community support here. And what you said was in the news, and I think that's part of the issue, is that, you know, the news has become a bit polarized and politicized, and it was, I don't know, that mechanism went towards police in a negative fashion. I think that pendulum is starting to swing a little bit back to the middle, and I don't think it truly was indicative of what most people out there were feeling about their police departments, even at least at the local level, because we didn't really have any people coming knocking on our door demanding reform or change within our police department.
I think the majority of the people under you live in the township.
That's true, yes.
Yeah, and that's important.
We have a hiring preference in Egg Harbor Township for community members.
Right.
Yeah.
And by the way, folks, if you have people who are interested in becoming a member of the police department, we'll probably be giving tests probably within the next year.
We put it back a couple of times because we do have some suitable candidates that were on the list, and we keep picking them up. But we're gonna have to give a test probably sometime later this year. Right. Now on policeapp.com, there is a section for Egg Harbor Township. You can put yourself on that mailing list.
Right. Now, the first preference when we hire is Egg Harbor Township. Obviously, you got to pass the test, physical and written test, and you need to have a 4-year graduate degree or honorable discharge from military service with 4 years. So we did up the qualifications to 2 years to 4 years college education.
Now we have it's not excluded to the township residents,
but
we do that list. Yeah, right. It's a preference for Egg Harbor Township, and then we have the county. And then we have a state. So we have 3 different lists. Right. And we usually can make, depending on that list, at times we've gone to the state level. Yeah.
Okay. Chief, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Mayor.
Very good information for our public to learn about our police department. I'm very, very, very proud of our police department. So this concludes our program today. If you have any ideas for a future program, please don't hesitate to give us a call at 926-4044 and tell us what your thoughts and ideas are. Again, thanks for being here. Thanks for being here, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor.